Alright, so I'm going to cover a few topics here of the most commonly asked questions about the Supra. Not just my Supra, but any Supra. Just because I'm on Facebook, on the forums a lot, and there's always questions about like the same thing, you know, and it's just like I'm going to put an end to that if I can, and just try and help you guys get like an all-in-one of everything that I've seen on the Facebook forums and on the forums online. Oh, it's starting to sprinkle. What the heck? You see, it's getting cold here in Florida. You know, the one couple months out of the year thing. So I'm going to go over some of those things. And all the info that I do give out will be info that I've seen on the forums and on Facebook that have come from tuners and whatnot. So I'm going to try and give you guys the most reliable info. So the first thing I'm going to start on is like the biggest question ever. Is my Supra tunable? My goodness, you see this all the time. So I'm actually going to play overlays throughout this to help you guys see what I'm talking about, if it applies. Make sure I'm still recording. I pressed my phone. Yeah, okay. So the way that works with Supras is you're actually going to look at the ECU date. So what you can do is you'll pop these clips and then you pull the ECU out, and then there it is. That's like, here's the ECU date. I'll put a picture here so you guys can see more clear. So pretty much Supras before June of 2020 are tunable as of a ECU bench unlock. So you can pretty much go through a ton of different people and you pay a couple $100 and they just unlock it. Now if you have, like me, a post June 2020, which mine is actually July of 2020, so I'm pretty salty about that. I was this close. If you have post June 2020, unfortunately you have to get your ECU cloned. Now that's where it gets super expensive. When you talk about cloning, that's where you take your ECU and you ship it to either Femto, I believe is how you pronounce it. You ship it to Femto, or you ship it to Visconti, or, you know, there's probably a couple other people out there. You ship it to them, and then they take it and they ship it to Femto over in Finland, and then they take a pre-June 2020 ECU and your ECU, and they do magic and they ship them back for a couple $1,000s later. Like when I'm currently filming this in November of 2022, currently it's like $5,000 to do a clone. $5,000, that's insane. So here I am sitting full bolt-ons, no tune, because I'm not paying $5,000 for a clone at the moment. That's just outrageous, but that's currently what happens. So you'll get the pre-June 2020 ECU, which is then what you're going to run and do your tune on, and then you have your post June 2020 ECU. You get that back, and that is unlocked. So there's that stuff. That's the very first thing I'm going to talk about. The second thing, get my phone out here. So the second thing I'm going to talk about is spacers. That seems to be the next big question. So I don't know how well you can see my Supra from that angle, but I'm also running aftermarket wheels. But the fitment is pretty much dead on, to where, like, if you look at it, the wheel and tire combo is like dead even. So a lot of people ask the question, what spacers do I run to get that fitment on stock wheels? So to get that fitment on stock wheels, you're going to run a 13 mil in the front, seems to be the most common, and a 15 mil in the rear. I would recommend running either extended lug bolts, you know, like the setup we have from factory, where it's the bolt, or run some extended studs with the bolts, or not bolts, with the lug nuts, sorry. So what I originally did when I was on stock wheels is I did an extended stud with a open style lug nut, and I thought it was a clean setup. I liked it, but when I ended up switching to the TE37s, I thought it was cleaner just to do the wheel bolts, because in the rear with the extended ones I had, they stuck out like way out here, and I just wasn't having it. I was like, oh, that's a lot. And then on the front, they were pretty even, just because how the wheel's designed. But yeah, in the end, yeah, 13, 15. I ran H&R. I got them from Speed Industry, I think, but there's a lot of companies that make them. They actually sell a kit online that I believe from Burger Motorsports. They sell a kit where it's the spacers with extended bolts, so you guys could always get that one. All right, so next commonly asked question is, drumroll please, how can I tune my Supra? That seems to be another big question. So back to the whole tuning thing. To tune your Supra, there's a couple different ways you can do it. There's like MHD, BM3, JP4, EQ-Tech. That's all I'm thinking of right now. So that kind of is where it also gets a little tricky. So like, was it JB4? Is it JB4? I forget. Is a piggyback. So piggybacks are weird. And I saw something that Mikey Body posted, and it like stuck with me. It's like, you're gonna buy a $50,000 car and then put a piggyback on it, because the way I read piggybacks work is it like kind of tricks the computer to think what you want it to think. So it's gonna kind of like add boost. I'm not a tuning expert. That's what I've read on how a piggyback works. So if you guys want to put it in the comment section, maybe a little more info, that'd be dope. But that's what I read, the general gist. And then there's like BM3 and MHD, which tuners can also do like a custom tune on as well, but it's kind of tricky, as you can't get as much info and you can't tune as much as like EQ-Tech. So if you want to go like big turbo and really go balls to the wall, like I'm trying to do with like port injection, big turbo, flex fuel, all that, EQ-Tech's where you want to go, because you can get a lot more out of your setup. And also like there's some softwares out there that the reflex to run port injection isn't supported, so you have to run EQ-Tech to support that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to run like JB4, BM3 or whatever it is and not even be able to use my reflex. So there's that. Next question. Ooh, I'm already up to 8 minutes. Holy crap. I didn't think it would take this long. Will this void my warranty? That's another big question. And that's another question where it's like, because the way it works is you have the Murgison or Munson or something Act, to where technically speaking, the dealership has to prove that that mod voided your warranty. What's crazy though is I went in and did my oil change, and they said I have oil consumption problems. And they're like, well, obvious. Literally, they came out and they're like, all right, so man, so you got oil consumption problems, and with the modifications you have, unfortunately, you voided that, and which is false, because technically they have to prove that my mods are causing this, which is crazy, because at the time when I did my oil change, all I had was an intake, and they're saying already that my engine's voided, which is technically false. But I'm not too worried about that at the moment, just because I changed my oil to the Molly or whatever, liquid Molly or whatever it's called, and that was 4,500 miles ago. And doing my little oil check, my oil hasn't changed at all. So I don't know. I think that actually takes me to my next question of what oil should I run. That seems to be another huge question. Notes. What intake should I run? What's the loudest? That's the next question. The loudest intake is hands down the Armaspeed. That's the intake I'm running. It's loud. That's all I can say. A little more pricey. All right, next question. Difference between a 2-port and a 6-port. This seems to be kind of a little question that dabbles here and there. Pretty simple. So a 2-port and a 6-port. Sorry, it's like kind of cold. A 2-port and a 6-port. So back when the BMW first came out, it was a 2-port head. So it has 2 exhausts coming out, and then off for the turbo manifold. And then the 6-port, it has 6 heads coming out. So like, I have a 6-port, so that means I have 6 runners coming off the head. They go to the turbo, and then, like I said, 2-port, you got 2 runners. So it was a neat design, kind of like the new Civic SIs as well. Basically the head just like funnels it down to 2 ports, and then it comes to the turbo, which is interesting. I don't know how they get so much exhaust flow, like as free flowing. I don't know, I'm not a tuner, but that's the difference. There's also, they changed the compression ratio when they went to the 6-port. I believe it went from 11 to a 11 to 1 to a 10.2 to 1. So next question. That's a general gist of the 2-port to 6-port. Okay, this is a huge one. Cat-less versus catted. What will and will not make my check engine light pop? So here's pretty much how it goes. If you're cat-less, you're probably going to pop your check engine light. You have the O2 bung before and after where the cat goes, and if there's no cat, it's going to read that, you know, there's no cat, so your CEL is going to pop. Now there is ways to trick it. You can run one of them eliminators where it's like this little angle piece, and it'll like change the position of your O2 sensor to kind of like mimic that there is a catalytic converter in there. You could do that. You know, some people get away with it. Personally, I have a cat-less and I have the check engine light. I'm just winging it. I don't really care that it's on. Although I could run one of them things, but I'm not going to run it for now. Maybe if I don't get tuned soon, maybe I'll run it. I don't know. But you can run one of them. There's actually rumors that there is a downpipe out there that's cat-less that you don't get a check engine light on. I believe it's the Army Tricks, which is like super expensive. And it has like this mesh system inside. It's interesting. It's only rumors. I haven't seen anything on Facebook or on the forums. And then catted downpipes. I actually had it at one point. The AutoWorks one, Active AutoWorks. It's a high flow cat. It takes you from a 400 cell to a 200 cell. And I had that downpipe for 3 months, and I never had a check engine light. So there is that one. It seems like all the other catted ones have the check engine light pop, but the Active AutoWorks, I never had it. People on the forums talk about it all the time, how they never have a check engine light pop. So when it comes to cat-less downpipes, look, man, check engine light's going to pop. There's nothing you can do about it. Even if you run an eliminator or whatever, it's going to pop. There's no way around it. Ugh. All right, next question. Good Lord. I might cut some of this out. Can I run flex fuel without a tune? No, do not do that. Flex fuel without a tune, you are changing the fuel source of your car. If you guys don't know, it takes 3 times as much E85 to equal 93. It takes a lot more fuel. So if you start, if say you put a flex fuel like sensor on it, your car's not going to know it until you get flex fuel turned on by some tuning software, to where they can actually like register it. So if you just put a flex fuel sensor on there and you don't tune it and you start putting flex fuel in it, it's not a good day. It's not going to be a good day. There's a lot that goes into tuning for flex fuel. So if you get a flex fuel sensor, do not put flex fuel in it until you get tuned and approved to run flex fuel by a tuner. So there's that. Unless you want to tune yourself, then good luck, dog. That sounds scary. That's just me. I'm not a tuner. I've said it like 10 times. Do I need a tune for full bolt-ons? This is a tricky question. Technically, no, and it's been told on all the forums by tuners that you don't need a tune for flex fuel. Or not flex fuel, sorry. Wow. You don't need a tune for full bolt-ons. The ECU in this car is smart enough to like work itself with whatever mod you have done. It's been told a million times. People ask all the time about, can I run a cat-less downpipe without a tune? Yes, but then also you got to think about it in a sense where if you run all these aftermarket mods that's increasing airflow, changing your parameters, like for me, for instance, I'm running the intake manifold, intake, cat-less downpipe, charge pipe. If you think about it, you changed a lot of stuff on your car. Should you get a tune? Most definitely, to make your car run for optimal. Make your car run optimal for the stuff you've done to it. However, at the same time, you don't technically need a tune. It's recommended you get a tune. But with this cloning price, man, I don't know about all that. I don't know about that anytime soon anyways. My throat's starting to hurt. I don't ever talk this much for this long. Next question, the chassis code. If you guys ever do suspension, like lowering springs or like air ride or coilovers, you're going to get a chassis code. So if you guys know anything about that, if you've touched any of that, you know you have your sensors that plug into your stock suspension. Make sure those are fully plugged in. Or if you want to do the eliminator kit, if you change your stock struts or whatever, and you do the eliminator kit, there's a couple people that make them now. Back when I first did this, I heard something. It's creepy. There was only KW did the eliminator kit, so I have KW eliminators. But if you ever get the code, check the eliminators or check the connector on your stock struts. Or if you're still having a problem, check the brackets. So there's little brackets, high level brackets, that connect to the car and the strut. So for me, I figured out I get the code once in a while. I have the eliminators, but I noticed in the rear of the car I have the bracket on this side. And what I ended up doing is, because the car sits so much lower, it put this really bad angle on the sensor arm itself. So I actually took the harness, or no, I took the bracket and I flipped it upside down, and now I almost never have the code. I have it once in a while when I hit like a really bumpy road. I guess it like just freaks out the car, but it basically went away. So that's what you can do for that. If you get the code, that's how you fix it. It's okay. It's okay. Alright, so next question. Probably up to like 20 minutes now. What oil should I run? This is up for debate as well. So like me personally, I got away from the Toyota oil. A lot of people recommend, when you have the 2021 like I do, you have the oil consumption problems, that the factory oil is just too thin. So for me, because I believe factory oil is what, 0W20. So for me, I bumped it up to the liquid moly, and then I got 5W30 in my Supra, and my oil consumption problems seem to have gone away. I don't have it right now. Since that oil change, I have like 4,500 miles. So I've put some miles on it, and oil level seems to be straight. Oil is one of them things. It depends where you live, if it's hot or cold, what your mods are. But it seems to be like everybody that has oil consumption problems and went away from Toyota's oil don't seem to have oil consumption problems. So that's what I'm doing. I also put a magnetic drain plug in it. I don't know, it's like one of them things in my head where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to throw that in there just in case. But I don't know. That was on my first oil change. I haven't changed my oil since. So I don't know if it's caught anything. It's getting cold. It's sprinkling. All right, so that seems, I believe that's it. Let me look over my list. So I think that's where I'm gonna wrap up this video. It's getting dark and colder by the second. My hands are getting cold. Yeah, so if you guys have any ideas for videos, I'm always down to help. I know there's not a whole lot of Supra YouTube channels out there, so I just want to share some knowledge that I see and that I get. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video.